Hang on, I'm almost ready. Checking the audio settings. And that should work okay. Give me a sound check. And just in case you want to come in and comment, this is not going to be a long one like we did earlier today with a 6-hour broadcast about the glory of God. The broadcast earlier was called something like The Testimony of God is the Cross and Resurrection of Christ. Anyway, something like that. Hi, Rhonda. Thanks for telling me that the sound is good. How you doing, Jeremy?
I'm good.
Okay, this has nothing to do with the scriptures, except it might have everything to do with our
That's
life
what
in Christ.
I
Say what?
actually almost decided that after my day today, I'm probably not going to click and be bothered by this, but I saw that go ahead. Go ahead. I gotta hear it.
The Abernathy boys go for a ride.
It looks like the perfect story for me.
Free-range children in the early 20th century America. Let me bump it up one more time and see if that helps. Is that better?
This is one
Yeah,
of
it
my
looks like.
favorite. This is one of my favorite things that I like about you. By the way, I
What's
don't
that?
know what in the hell you're getting ready to share with everyone. Let me shut this.
Yeah. But you love it anyway.
But I know it's gonna be. I know it's gonna be profound, even if it's in a little way, and it's gonna be in my head for a long while. So
Okay, this is a story about some boys way back in 1910 who were not helicoptered by helicopter parents.
look at
Free-range children in the early 20th century America. All right, see these two boys here? How old do they look?
man, shoot, 10 years old, 12,
And
not
they're
even
riding
12.
horses. They're riding horses. Oh my God, they're riding horses.
Like young little men right there, real men.
Okay, here we go. If you want a single dramatic example of how much America has changed in the last century or so, stop talking about trips to the moon and supercomputers and start talking about this. In 1910, two brothers, Temple and Lewis Abernathy, saddled up a pair of ponies and rode from their homes in Frederick, Oklahoma to New York City, almost 2,000 miles away, to see Teddy Roosevelt give a speech. At the time, Lewis was called Bud. He was 10 years old and Temple was 6. 2,000 miles on a horse ride. Oh, God, what are we talking about here?
Oh my God.
Lewis rode his father's horse. What?
This is great for me.
Okay.
Josie's 5.
Lewis rode his father's horse, Sam Bass, and Temple rode a pony named Geronimo. Temple was so small that he had to climb on a stump to mount and often slid down the pony's leg rather than drop to the ground. They rode without maps, watching the sun and asking directions as they went. Behind the saddles, they carried bedrolls and bacon and oats for their horses, and they paid food and hotel bills by check. A 10-year-old writing a check? Preposterous, inconceivable. They wore broad brim hats, long pants, and spurs, and stayed in touch with their family through telegrams and occasional phone calls. Difficulties did occur. The boys faced a blizzard. Geronimo foundered and had to be replaced with a horse that was named Wiley Haynes after an Oklahoma deputy. Temple came down with a fever, and he was almost swept away crossing a river. After 2 months on the road, they arrived safely in Washington, D.C., where they were greeted by the Speaker of the House and met President Taft, whom they felt a fine man, but inferior to their hero, Teddy Roosevelt. 2 weeks later, they were in New York City riding behind Teddy Roosevelt in a ticker tape parade in Roosevelt's honor. He had just returned from a grand hunting trip to Africa. For an encore, the two preteens shipped their horses home by train and bought an automobile and drove it back to Oklahoma.
Oh my God.
The 10-year-old and the 6-year-old drove a car back to Oklahoma. And that's when things really got crazy. And here they are in their car. All you have to do is just get your feet in the stirrups and hang on to the reins. And that's a quote. You may quote Temple Abernathy. That's what he said.
Wow.
What's the opposite of helicopter parent? Well, that would be John Abernathy, United States Marshal for the Western District of Oklahoma. Abernathy was by any standards a singular man, a working cowboy at 9 years of age. And by his mid-20s, Abernathy had become famous for his unique method of hunting wolves. He dragged them out of their dens alive with his bare hands and earned the nickname Catch 'em Alive, Abernathy. Abernathy actually shoved his bare hand into the animal's mouth. Oh, God, what a dude.
I've always taught my children this, that if you're getting attacked by a dog and you can't get away, they're getting you, you just shove your arm all the way down into their innards. You hold on. Go ahead.
Abernathy actually shoved his bare hands into the animal's mouth, then used wire to bind the jaws shut. This skill so impressed Teddy Roosevelt, who came to Oklahoma to hunt with Abernathy, that he made Abernathy, all of 5'2" tall, the U.S. Marshal, the youngest in America.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
2 years after that, in 1907, Abernathy's wife, Jessie Pearl, died, leaving Jack to raise 6 children under the age of 9. He managed with help from his parents and a frontier attitude about what we might call age-appropriate activities. Grief never mentioned in the accounts undoubtedly played a role in it too. But what sort of role, I'm not qualified to say.
Wow.
It deserves to be mentioned. Okay, so he didn't cry, right? He didn't say, why me, why? Why, oh God, am I going through this?
Did you write this? Is this? You gotta read that sentence again. That is so powerful.
It deserves to be mentioned. Okay, read it again.
Yeah, that was huge. Huge.
2 years after that, in 1907, Abernathy's wife, Jessie Pearl, died, leaving Jack to raise 6 children under the age of 9. He managed with help from his parents and a frontier attitude about what we might call age-appropriate activities. Grief never mentioned in the accounts undoubtedly played a role in it too, but what sort of role I am not qualified to say. It deserves to be mentioned that the great ride to New York in 1910 was not the Abernathy Boys' first rodeo. A year earlier, in 1909, Temp and Bud had ridden from Oklahoma to Santa Fe, New Mexico, and back, a 1,300-mile round trip done at the ages of 5 and 9, completely alone.
Jiminy crickets.
If you've ever driven through the Texas Panhandle in northern New Mexico, you know that it is wide open, lonesome country, one that seems barely settled even today. In 1909, it was still the haunt of outlaws and bad men.
Wow.
The Santa Fe trip had been riddled with near disasters. Bud's horse, Sam Bass, borrowed from his father, and the Shetland pony Mix, named Geronimo, was sure-footed, but Temple contracted diarrhea by drinking gypsum water and sprained both ankles trying to dismount. Bud was forced to lie awake one night, firing his shotgun into the darkness toward a pack of wolves that circled while his brother slept.
Wow.
The boys ran out of both food and water between stops and were saved by the kindness of strangers. The most chilling episode was a note scribbled at the point of a lead tipped bullet on a brown paper sack addressed to the Marshal of Oklahoma and delivered to the Abernathy home. And here's what the note said: I don't like one hair on your head, but I do like the stuff that's in these kids. We shadowed them through the worst part of New Mexico to see that they were not harmed by sheep herders, and mean men or animals. It
Wow.
was signed by AZY, the initials of the rustler whose friend had been killed in a shootout with Abernathy.
Wow. He shadowed those boys.
And he hated their father.
Yeah.
What does that tell you? Doesn't that tell you a lot
Yeah.
that love is there even among gangsters and outlaws?
Wow. He was impressed by those boys and their spirit.
Temple, no woman's man. Temple Abernathy is a confirmed woman hater. When in New York, in an elevator of one of the big hotels, a beautiful woman patted the boy on the head. Quote, and just how many miles did you ride your horse? She asked the boy. Temple shook his head free of her hand and looking up at his father said, tell her, Pop. No matter where they went, in street cars, in street cars, in the subway, in hotels, or in libraries, the Abernathy boys were picked out as the boys who did that wonderful ride. So it was not surprising that New York went wild over the sight of the Abernathy boys in an automobile. Scores rushed from the streets and even out of street cars to grip the little boys' hands that were now holding the wheel instead of the reins.
Wow.
They would not stop. We're going back home fast now, in the modern way, in an auto, is what Lewis told them. Yes, added the marshal. They came out as pioneers and now they're returning like millionaires. I tell you, it's much more comfortable in the seat of one of these machines than even in the big Western saddle.
I guess the big Western saddle is a brand saddle. You see that W on there, the capital W? Must have been a branded saddle.
Yeah, maybe so.
So,
I'm fascinated with the Abernathys because until a year ago I had never heard of them and felt ashamed that this story had fallen into the cracks of American history. Secondly, I feel a special connection to the Abernathys because my grandmother, Nellie Estelle Davis, was their exact contemporary in 1902 in almost exactly the same place, Magnum, Oklahoma, to a teamster and sometimes horse thief, Oliver Jack Moore, and his wife Laura. My grandmother, who spent the first years of her life in a tiny western town, West Texas town called Throckmorton, said that one of her earliest memories was Ollie Jack on the run. Ollie Jack had been missing for several weeks, and when he appeared one night out of the dark on a horse, he just stopped long enough to kiss my grandmother and great-grandmother, and then rode off again in a great hurry back into the dark. Or at least that was the way she remembered it. Oliver Jack and Laurie Moore, and possibly my grandmother circa 1903.
wow.
As far as earliest memories go, that's a good one. Who knows if it's true? What I can say is that Ollie Jack Moore and Jack Abernathy were born a few months apart in adjacent counties in West Texas and traveled in the same circles and were sort of in the same business, sort of.
Sort of in the same business, sort of.
And here's the boys on a motorcycle.
Wow.
In 1913, Temple and Bud rode an Indian motorcycle from Oklahoma to New York as a promotional stunt for Indian motorcycles. Bud and Temp proved to be a restless pair after returning from New York. They got an itch to go again. And in 1911, they accepted a challenge put forward by a pair of Coney Island promoters: ride across the continent in 60 days. And if it could be accomplished in the allotted time without sleeping and eating indoors, they'd each be paid $5,000, a regal sum. That
What
is what I
year was
meant.
it? 1911.
1911, they were offered
What was
5,000 each.
that $5,000? What about that, man? So
Yeah,
we
that's like
the dollar's down to like minus, what is it, 98%?
right, right. So 5,000 would have been the equivalent of at least 100,000
At
in,
least.
in today's spending money.
At least.
This is what I meant when I said things got crazy. So in 1911, the Abernathy boys rode their horses from New York to San Francisco, 3,616 miles in 62 days, a cross-country horseback record that still stands. A
Wow.
crazy accomplishment for an adult, almost imaginable for a pair of children. Unfortunately, the Abernathys didn't get paid, having taken 2 days too long to make the trip.
Dang.
Their horses ran off at the Great Salt Lake Desert of Utah, and it took the boys 3 days of chasing them on foot to catch them. In 1913, when they returned from their great motorcycle ride to New York, the Abernathy boys were never again in the spotlight. They had ridden by horse, car, and motorcycle more than 10,000 miles in 4 years, starred as themselves in a silent movie, and gone for a plane ride with Orville Wright. And then they settled down to ordinary lives. Bud, who died in 1979, eventually became a lawyer practicing in Wichita Falls, Texas, while Temp, who died in 86, worked in the oil field and gas industry in Oklahoma. But back to my first point, that the story of the Abernathy boys is as good as an indication of how much the world has changed as any discussion of superior supercomputers and moon landings in 1910. Children were vastly more common.
Yeah.
Children were vastly more common. My grandmother, Nellie Estel, was one of the dozen born to Laura and Ollie Jack, 10 of which reached adulthood. Children were vastly more involved with the activities of the adult world. Before World War I, children didn't ride off on an unbelievable adventure. Children worked, sometimes dangerously miserable conditions. We all know about Shorpy Higginbotham, and I guess that's a kid named Shorpy.
Yeah. What did he do?
In 1910, Shorpy Higginbotham, a greaser,
That must be oil worker, huh?
a greaser on the tipple at Bessie Mine at the Sloss Sheffield Steel and Iron Company in Alabama, said he was 14 years old, but it's doubtful. He carries 2 pails of grease and is often in danger of being run over by coal cars.
Damn.
And the girl, remember this girl? No, I don't. What's this story?
Wow.
1911.
Look at the embroidery on those. Look at the tapestry.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
In 1911, the girls worked all day in a cannery. This girl worked all day in a cannery located in unspecified, but probably Mississippi. How you doing, Lawrence? Nice to see you.
Hey, nice to see you, both of you.
Do you see, look, go back up, Ace. Look at that tapestry. Look at the textile. Look at the gathered, the way they sewed that, all that work in there.
Uh-huh.
It looks quilted.
Man.
Almost.
And then how it turns into the horizontal from the vertical, the blouse. Look at
Oh, yeah.
Look at that. Look at that. It's all one piece of garment. That's unbelievable.
These photos were taken by an investigator working in the National Child Labor Committee established in 1904 to look into the conditions of child labor in America, where 18% of all children between the ages of 10 and 15 worked. What the committee found shocked the conscience and Congress, eventually resulting in the ending of most child labor practices. The point, however, was that before World War I, children did things that we don't think of as childish,
Wow.
which is how it's always been. Children have always been much more capable
Yeah.
than we currently give them credit
Yeah.
for better, the Abernathys, or worse, like poor Shorpy. Yes, children should be children, free to do childish things, but they also need to be challenged and given progressive responsibilities as they grow older. Our failure to understand this is one of the sadder things about our current world.
Yeah.
The second sad thing, of course, is the closing of a possibility. In 1910, America was wild and wide open. It was exciting, loud, grubby, glittering, frequently coarse, and surprisingly unrefined. Oh, and surprisingly refined, all at the same time. These were righteous causes to champion and greater injustices to fight. But above all else, you could, but above all else, you could do things. And it wasn't exactly the frontier anymore, but close enough for a pair of boys to mount their ponies and ride across America. And that's the biggest changes of all. So many possibilities are gone. So much has been foreclosed on us and our children. And John Taylor Gatto, one of my favorite heroes who just recently died. Do you know who he is?
No.
He was a school teacher in New York who won the Teacher of the Year award like
Yes.
7 years in a row.
I've read a bunch about him. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he got sick of trying to change the school system and finally said, "Screw you guys." He started becoming a promoter of homeschooling.
Yes, I've read about him.
Children allowed to take responsibility and given a serious part in the larger world are always superior to those merely permitted to play and be passive.
I'm so tickled at you reading this because I can see like when we had that pool store for 5 years, those kids when they were in there and working and all that, amazing. I remember sitting there with Shauna saying, you know what, if this thing fails, our kids have learned so much anyways, and we've been such a great testimony to the community. You know, they'd come in there and see our family. Yeah. And they weren't overworked. Oh my gosh. I'm going to talk about these two kids from Evermore. Look at that. Wow. I knew I gave Josie that whale's name for a reason. She's going to be on her own for a bit.
So if you guys want to see the article yourself or pass it on, I'll put it here in the side chat. And if I'm clever, maybe I'll put it in the comment section after I close up shop here. And Brother Daniel says, everyone has been programmed to live in a dream world through Hollywood.
Yeah.
Hollywood sucks.
So I took out a 30-foot long apple tree limb that was growing horizontally 30 foot up in the tree, and the limb itself was 30 foot horizontal.
30 feet of apple tree? That's huge.
Yeah, I know. It's been abused.
I don't think I've ever seen anything over maybe, 8 or 10 feet in an apple tree.
Right.
Branch. Wow, my goodness.
I guess it's gotten some good nitrogen over the years, thanks to the chickens and the rabbits. But it took me about 10 days to take that branch out. Not because it was that strenuous, but because I had to think my way through it. It took more mental energy. I had to think, where is the weight dynamics of it, because also I didn't want the limb to fall on a makeshift tent that we were storing the lawnmowers in, a work tent. I didn't want it to fall down, so it took me 10 days to think,
10 days of thinking,
yeah,
20 minutes of cutting.
yeah.
Yeah, that's good though.
So it was like playing Tetris in reality. Where's it going to drop? Where's the weight shift? Am I going to get hurt? And, so I had the damn limb roped off, cut, and then I had to pull it out. And it took a while. So,
Jeremy, I just saw you in there. I wanted to see if you've got peace. Want to encourage you.
I do have peace.
That's wonderful. Because I know you had something going on today. So
I don't have great news, but I do have great news.
Well, these boys took care of themselves from Oklahoma all the way to.
That was important for me to see that today, by the way.
Yeah. You can't keep them kids out forever, obviously. That's like a new thing in history.
Isn't it? Wow.
Also, because I didn't prune this apple tree for a number of years, it didn't give me fruit.
Yeah.
It turns out that an apple tree, like every other damn plant, needs a little bit of abuse in order to produce fruit.
Abuse. That's
Abuse,
a good word
yeah.
for pruning.
Yeah.
So I bet I will get a lot of apples this year because I pruned it like hell.
Yeah, it's the new growth that produces fruit.
Even with tomatoes, if you've got beautiful, beautiful soil and the tomato grows really tall and strong and green, it's not going to flower and give you fruit unless you take your foot and step on the root and kind of stress the root out, right where the stem goes into the ground, crack it, abuse it, and then you're going to get a lot of fruit out of it.
Yeah, we grew a lot of tomatoes back in Oklahoma. I lived in Tulsa for about 20 years. And
did you hear the story we just read?
I came in late. I saw Jeremy was in there, so I just wanted to jump in. I came
Lord,
in late.
you will have to listen. You will have to go back. You will be treated. This is an amazing story. I knew it when I saw the picture. I thought, okay, what's this? Amazing, amazing.
Yeah, I'll go back and listen. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a story about these two boys, aged 9 and 6, riding across the country just to see their.
Miles this trip. That's child abuse today. That's child abuse today.
And who are they going to see?
President Roosevelt.
Oh, wow.
Teddy Roosevelt, their hero.
And did they get to see him?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, good. I'll have to go back and see the story.
Yeah, that'd be a good, however long your commute is, that would be a good listener right here. This is a great story. One of the best history stories I've heard from me right now today.
Well, our tomatoes used to grow 15 to 18 feet, and because we had 5-foot high concrete mesh rings, and the plant would grow up and over that and bound to the ground again. There's 10 feet, and then it would grow out and spread all over the garden because we had no way to hang it up. But we grew some monster tomatoes, wonderful, wonderful crops there, soil.
Yeah. Who was helping? Was it your grandfather that was helping you, or your dad, or?
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
No, it's just my wife and I. We had a little place in Tulsa. Back in I bought that in 92. So yeah, 92 through 2000. We had a garden, grew a lot of our own stuff, had chickens, and used to butcher and can the chicken meat, which is a great way to do chickens. So. But
how long have you been with your wife, Lawrence?
We got married April 26th of 1980.
How old were you?
She was 19. I was 22 or 3, about 23, I think I was.
Same story.
Met her at a roller skating rink. I used to go skating by myself. I loved roller skating, and they called out on the little intercom system, okay, next skate is ladies' choice. So I ran off to the water fountain, got a drink, and somebody came up and tapped me on my back. And that was my wife, and she looked at me, and she smiled real big, says, hi, you want to skate? So we skated and then spent the rest of the night together, talking and eating a hot dog and just hanging out.
Yeah.
And 11 weeks later we were married. So
Wow.
yeah, quickie.
Well, it is what it is. Supposedly a man knows in not too long.
Yeah.
We're
So
easy.
the picture I posted, that's right before she had got breast cancer, and right before she started treatment, she wanted to have photos taken because she knew she'd never get her hair back. So that picture of us over on the Ace Theo site is right before the chemotherapy was starting.
Wow. So how long has she been in chemotherapy? Is she all over that now? I didn't.
Yeah, that's all over. It's been over for about a year now. So that picture's a couple years old, and she's doing very well. Everything looks good. So
you guys look in love, like you're connected.
We've had a lot of good times. We've had a lot of bad times.
Sure.
Guarantee you. Yeah. So.
No, it's real.
Yep. So we were roller skating buddies. What you laughing at, Ace?
What are you laughing at, Ace?
I'm laughing that I actually had the guts to put this show up. Has nothing to do with the scriptures or whatever. Just.
Oh yeah, it does.
Have to.
Just to look at human nature and social structure then and now.
You know what it did for us, the body?
What?
I think it gave me more understanding about my daddy, about God. He knows what we can take. He knows. That gave me a big reality check of how much stuff I am troubled with about children. I'm telling you, this is really big for me tonight. Yeah, I don't get to see my little 5 and 11-year-old for, if I believe what the world's saying right now, 3 years. It's done.
Oh my! What? Why is that? A court decision or something?
Yeah, I recorded the whole court decision. I still, after listening to the recording, I still can't understand why that judge decided that. What was the reason? I even asked that. What is the reason?
Wow.
I mean, I got an hour's worth of why. I mean, literally read an hour, or her attorney asked her questions. I figured out. I started falling asleep, actually, to tell you the truth, Lawrence. I started falling asleep. I was like, wow, this is just a big hour-long mud trail. And then I realized there is no jury here. I thought it was a trial. Stupid.
It's just the judge.
Just one person.
One person, the judge.
Yeah. So that other Sam dude, I object. I'm like, fuck. Who gives a fuck about objecting? It's one person making the decision. I don't give a fuck about objections. Listen to me. It was just macabre. It was weird. Excuse my language, but yeah, it was really amazing.
Yeah. And well, you said you're at peace about it, and that's good, because that's kind of what I wanted to talk to you about. But
yeah, there's what can I do? I really, man.
It's still it can be terrorizing. The legal system, the world system, being called in, having things challenged, contrary to your beliefs, all that stuff, that can be terrorizing to the flesh.
This is a big part of it. Listen, let me tell you, and I recorded the whole thing, the last 30 minutes. This is what it's about. My belief in this, apart from the Christian standard.
Oh, that came into it?
Oh my God. Unbelievable.
Oh, that's unbelievable.
It is unbelievable.
Wow. Maybe the judge needs to come and watch some of this stuff. Well, I had the thought earlier today, and I was praying for you, and had the thought, back in I want to say it was about 97, I had developed a product, and I got hit with a lawsuit for $1 million out of the blue, and it shocked me, and it hurt, and I was scared, and I had no idea what to do, and I didn't, it blew me away, and I wasn't sleeping well. I did, it was just why it just blindsided me. Yeah. And then I thought about this. That was about 97. So what is this? 07, 17, 25 years later. You know what?
What?
All of that has become powerless. There is no anxiety, no fear, no trouble, no nothing. It's gone. It's gone forever. And I got to thinking, if that's gone forever now, um, everything can be gone forever. Everything that we suffer, everything that we endure, life changes and we can be restored to a place of peace. And I just was thinking, well, maybe that's a good thing to share with you, that if you're going through something really hard, it's going to pass away. It's going to be gone. Someday it won't matter at all. So have that view.
No, I'll tell you, I came here and sat down and I thought, okay, it's really real now. This is real.
So, Jeremy, what if we rewrite the headline in this? The Jeremy kids go for a ride.
There you go. That's
Free-range children in 2022.
There you go.
Yeah.
They're not in your control anymore.
No, it's green, actually, Lawrence. It's actually because I tried all. So I spent about I even told I was like $18,000 on counseling. Are you serious? Yeah. And then you add everything up. I sent her an email and added it all up. And I saw, because I sat there during Christmas time, before she did the kick out order and left me. I mean, literally blood was, I've got a picture. There's blood marks in my bed because I'm in bed all the time. I feel good for 2 hours, back in bed. And I'm jacked up. And so while all that was going on, it was like, wow. It's not the end of the world. It's actually freeing because God is running this. And what he's had me right now, I have 15 to 20 hours worth of work every day that I could be lost in for him. Lost in, to where I sleep right here, on the floor, and I would be content doing that, really, and building that and everything else. And then that's it. That's what I'm happy about.
Yeah.
Honestly. Because it's so macabre and so weird. And so it's not even good for my wife that's for it. I'm sitting there watching her. I was like, wow, you are hurting. You do not look right. You do not look like you are lined up with. I could tell she was, I loved her, but not that ugly way, that stupid way. I loved her like I'll never see you again, but I understand what you're doing and why you're hurting like this, and I don't fault you for it at all.
Wow.
What's the big deal? Why they were annoyed with you understanding that all is of God and being part of this worldwide movement?
Free will.
Free will?
Oh yeah.
They didn't like the free will thing? Oh my God.
Yeah. And a wife being submissive, they didn't like that at all. You want your wife to be submissive? I said, no. She wanted this and I wanted this like 30 years ago. This is what she doesn't want to work. She hates it. We agreed to this. I've taken care of her for 30 years. I like carte blanche. You have the checkbook, your schedule, your money. I never questioned anything. I told him I should have. I should have. But yeah, no, I saw something different today in that courtroom. I sure did.
The wisdom of men?
I saw the pain of lies and trying to get something that you think you so much want and need, but yet, I just saw the lies of everything that I am susceptible to.
Yeah.
But this is a different one for her. This is her moment. This is her, she's never done anything wrong in our relationship, really, honestly. We've never had to contend with anything that she's done wrong. I've never held her to the fire of changing. So this is her.
That'll ruin stuff quick. That whole, you need to be like this. You need to change. You got to stop doing what. Boy, that just ruins stuff. That's worthless.
I've never done that to her.
Never works, does it?
But she does now. She's ran into something that God, I think, is now saying, okay, This is your, you can have it this way, or you can have it that way. All she has to do is repent, and I'll walk her through all of it. I even have the solution for what's wrong with her. I really do. I really have spent 4 years. I can't tell you how many hours and how much material and footnotes and yeah. But Josie and Nat will be fine. Shit, they're already freaking old enough. They're good. She's already 5, so she's good. 6 and 11. If they can make it 2,000 miles and see Teddy.
Yeah.
With diarrhea and wounded ankles.
That's
Oh
right.
gosh, can't imagine the journey. That's hard, horseback. I used to be a cowboy. Did you know that? No.
No.
Back in 78, 79, I worked about a 2,000 acre cattle ranch, on horseback every day. Kept cattle and goats and sheep and maintained fences. So, yeah, I was a real cowboy.
That's awesome.
All right.
Okay.
Let's get out of here. Saddle up.
Good to see you guys. Love you, man.
Happy trails.
To you.
To you. I'll talk to you about other stuff a little bit later, Lawrence.
Huh?
I'll talk to you about some other stuff a little bit later on tomorrow or something.
Yeah, tomorrow be better.
I'm on Pacific Standard. Where are you Where are you? What time zone?
I'm in Arizona, which is Pacific time now because you guys changed your clock.
Oh,
so Arizona stays the same.
You're at 6 o'clock then, right now.
Yeah, 6:09. Yep.
6:09. Yep. All right, cool. No, we'll be good. All
Okay.
right, Dave, I'm going to leave you. I love you. This was awesome. This is a great story. Thanks for coming.
Well,
I'll talk.
Yeah. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, Lawrence. Thank you, Jeremy. Hope you guys enjoyed this little article reading of about these two boys who took a road trip on horseback for about 2,000 miles just to see President Teddy Roosevelt. And they were 6 and 9 years old. And they weren't helicoptered by a helicopter parent. Anyway, grace to you. And leave any comments you want to. And like and share this little episode. It might help some other people realize that the world is more enjoyable and bigger and more wonderful and full of more possibilities than we're led to believe by popular social culture at the moment. Grace to you.